Hi, it's Pete here and welcome to the vlog. Now today we're looking at one of my favourite products. Now you've probably seen our wonderful sculpting foam. Do you love florals? Should I even ask? Of course you do. But what we're going to show you today is how to add really naturalistic colours to some of your favourite florals. So here are our Sizzix Oil Pastels, and some of you are wondering, you might have seen these on the website and wonder why we are coming out with oil pastels. Well, of course, they are there to enhance our wonderful sculpting foam. Now, there's been a bit of confusion about how to get the best out of these, so hopefully I'm going to demystify that. I'm going to bring in some other products and just show you how to make, well, just beautiful, naturalistic floral colours. Let's take a look at some of our, this is our sculpting foam, and it comes in these lovely big sheets, and you tend to get 5 different colours in the sets. There are several colours to choose from. Please pop across to the website and see the different options. This one I happen to know is the festive one, so if you're making poinsettias, Christmas roses, things like that, this one is absolutely ideal. Now let's cut some of this, and we talk about a knife through butter. It is absolutely glorious the way that this just glides through like that. I'm going to cut 2 sets of flowers to start with, and today I'm using my tattered florals. Now this is probably the best selling big sty that we've ever had. It was designed, of course, by Mr. Tim Holtz, and there are 4 distinctly different flowers, and I'll show you at the end some of the makes that we've made. It's incredible how versatile it is. I'm just using this example because I know that many of you out there already have this die. So what I'll do is I'll take my sculpting foam and I'll fold it in half and I'll place it over the top of the big sty. Now, of course, sculpting foam compresses, and it's so thin that you could probably cut through 2 layers with a thinlit sty. But with a big sty, I dread to think how many layers you could cut at once, which if you're making a bouquet or if you're cutting in batches, you're making a lot of flowers, it's absolutely essential that you save time in the cutting part, and that's where big sties really do hold their own. So let's take all of those little, you can see how cleanly these have come out with that lovely sculpting foam. So let's set the die and the plates to one side, and we'll have a look at how I can apply colour to these. Now, what I'm going to do, this is just some packaging off an old die that I had, and this is, well, it's a cotton wool pad. So you can get these in various forms. This is the one I'm using today. And I'm going to put some baby oil. Now this is something that if you've had kids, you'd be very familiar with. So I'm going to put some just onto the pad like that. And that's why I've got this packaging underneath. You can put it on a little china plate. It's entirely up to you. But this is what I use to blend those lovely colours. Now I've also got a piece of kitchen paper. You can use a baby wipe, you can use a soft cloth, it's entirely up to you. But I prefer to go for the kitchen paper option, for no better reason than it's my personal preference. Now, when it comes to blending, I'm going to do 2. I'm only going to show you a couple of colour blends, because I think your imagination can take you to the next step. Now these are the colours that we have. Obviously we have the greens for when we do our leaves. We have the darker colours like the purple and the black for the central flowers, particularly good with darker colours of sculpting foam as well. And we have our pinks, we have peach, we have yellow. We've got all these lovely colours, and of course they do tie in with our colour stories. So you'll probably recognise some of those lovely colours there. Now, you can apply these directly to the flower. That's absolutely fine. But unless you're very subtle, it can be quite unforgiving. So what I'm going to do today, is take, with my kitchen paper, some of that baby oil, and I'm just going to rub it over my oil pastel. And you'll see how the colour transfers like that. Now, this oil allows you to blend it in a very, very subtle way. So I'm going to start moving from the center outwards. And you can see how straight away it's softened that color. And of course you can build up the color gradually, you can intensify it if you wish, but there's an old adage that we often use. It's like salting cooking. It's easier to add more. It's almost impossible to take it away. Although that's not necessarily the case with the oil pastels, because this baby oil will help you to smooth it out. But we want a nice subtle effect. And it looks great right now, but when you apply the heat to this, when you form, and it's all about heat, of course. So when you form the floral, then it smooths out no end. But now I've got that on there, you can see we can actually use this and move it out from the center there so we can get lines. And because I've applied that baby oil, you find that this goes on so smoothly. It's unbelievable. Now, even after we've done that, if you don't like the effect, if it's too heavy, I think that's perfect actually, but what you can do is you can blend that out again with a little bit of baby oil, soften that effect. And that's what it's all about. Using this system and using this technique, it gives you more control. So we're not going in too heavy with our die cuts. Now I'm going for the darker. This is the darker pink. So again, I'm transferring onto my pan and I'm going to go in the center. And let's move out like that. So just sticking very much to the center. And out again, you see how that's blending? Quite smooth, quite subtle. Let's take a clean piece of the paper towel now and we'll actually blend that out. You see how that almost takes it away? But that's what I want. I just want a more subtle effect. So you can blend. If you don't like it, simply start over again. But that's lovely. That's really nice. So I'm going to put that to one side. Now, another way, obviously, of using this, we could go again, if we go with our softer pink, we can take a little bit of the baby oil and we can start on the edges of the petals. And this is a really nice effect. And I'll show you a cool tip in a second on how to use this on the edge of your petals to get a very specific and very popular flower. So there we are, we'll blend that nice and smooth, and you can see how subtle that is. And if I put that against the white, there you can start to see. And that's what we want with florals. We don't want it to look contrived. We want it to look natural. We want it to look as if it's Mother Nature's hand at work rather than our own, or that Mother Nature is working through us. So there we are. We'll get to the edge of the last petal, and then finally I'm going to come in with the darker color and start to move around those edges. And you can be quite brave with this, because what might look like a little bit too much now, once you apply the heat, it evens it out beautifully. Once you start to twist these flowers into shape. That is absolutely gorgeous. Now, if you were really brave, you could even put some purple on the edges. That's entirely up to you. But I just want to restrict it to these two colours now. And you see that is on the edge of the petals, and that is on the inside. So let's take a look at what happens when I apply the heat. Now, some people, they prefer to hold these with a pair of tweezers, but you don't need a lot of heat. And I think a lot of the mistake a lot of people make with these is they apply a little bit too much heat, and it can make the petals quite brittle. I'm using my Sizzix heat tool, which is a dual speed heat tool, and I'm just going to apply that. It's not too hot on my fingertips. It's absolutely fine. I'm just making sure that I soften those petals, and then I can turn that off and then twist. And this is what, everybody's got a different method for this. This is the way that I like to do it. And you could hold that there. Now, if you've applied too much heat, you can make these delicate petals quite brittle. I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. Because it won't allow me to tease them out like this. What would happen if I'd applied too much heat? it would tear. And that would be, well, quite frankly, after all the time and care I've just spent, that would be a crime. So there we have it. But you see, by applying that heat like that, it gives us this lovely, subtle, naturalistic effect. It's domed in the center. So if you want to use stamen, or if you want to drop another little flower in there, that's absolutely fine. So that's blending from the center outwards. Next up, again, fold in half and half again. If you prefer, you can hold that with the tweezers, but I can tell you that this heat isn't really bothering me. As long as I've got enough for the petals, that's just fine. So let's twist to the end again. And there we have it. And as I say, at the end of this, I will show you some examples of makes that we've made using these very techniques, using these very oil pastels. So there we are. This is with the pastel, obviously, on the outside of the petal. Very different effect, very subtle. And as I said at the beginning, very, very naturalistic. So there we have it. If, incidentally, I quite like the way this is coming out. If you don't like the way that this flower has formed, then you simply reheat it and it reverts back to normal. But look at that, two very different ones. One with the pink on the inside and one with the pink on the outside. Now, of course, here's one we've done with green. And you can see I've used some of our wonderful Sizzix flower stamen in there. These are the silver. You can get sets which are pinks, lilacs and purples. You can get a set which is metallic from which the silver come. And there's also whites and ivories as well. So there's something for everyone and every color of floral. Now that's the green. So you can see the colors that I've used there. I've used this one and I've used that one. Well, actually, I think I've used all three on that. But you can see a lovely subtle color blend from the center outwards. Then let's reach over again. And I've used, you'll notice I've used the same color every time to show the contrast and how using different oil pastels can give you different effects. Now this one, I've actually used these three here, the peach, the yellow, and this lovely tan color. And you can see we've gone for that lovely effect. So it's darker towards the edges and lighter as you come in towards the middle. Then, saying that, I had to go for a darker color because I had to show you how it gives a lovely velvet effect when you work on these petals. That's the original color. And you can see I've used white on the outside, so I've used the white oil pastel. And that's given me almost like a dusty, kind of a silky sheen to those petals. But that black on the inside, that black and that purple working together, absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. And let's take a look now. Those are all the same flower, but obviously this is the daisy from the set. And by overlaying these, putting them together, getting that dark going in the middle, you can imagine some cream or white or ivory stamen in the center of that. Now, I did promise to show you one more cool thing, didn't I? So let's just take these out of the way for a second, because I'm going to show you something with this, and this is something I've done quite a bit in the past. I'm going to fold that like so, okay, into four. Let's kind of cross that over a bit more. So I'll fold that into four, and then I'll take my oil pastel again, and I'm going to use this lovely, the darker pink color, and I'm going to get lots and lots of it on here. So nice and wet with the baby oil. There we are, there's lots on there. And this time, look at it, I'm going really, it's kind of really rough, the way that I'm going around those petals. So I would hit that with the heat. In fact, you don't really need to hit that with the heat with this one. But what I would do is put a little bit of hot glue in there so that it holds it in this position. Then I would do that about 15 times. And do you know what you get when you put all those together? You get something like this, but when you turn it over, how about that? Now, you can imagine that in white as well. Gorgeous, gorgeous carnation. Or if you choose yellow, you could get like that orange or this tan color on the outside. So very, very versatile. You could get a bunch of different colored carnation, but it's a wonderful way of creating that flower. And I did actually use the heat on this because you can see the way that those petals are twisted. They're all different. but they're all perfect as well. And that's pretty much what Mother Nature does. Now, there are a few examples, all using this technique. Now, what I will show you are a couple of examples that I've made using those techniques and the very same flowers. And you can see quite different. Let's take the dome off there so that the light is in there. But you can see it's very subtle. Sometimes I've just edged the petals. Sometimes I've actually used this. I've drawn on this to get those spots on the center there. You can see the little one around there. You can see all those lovely Sizzix flower stamen coming in. There's also some leaves in the background as well, which we've used there, which we've used the oil pastels on. And that lovely orange color, you can see I've used the pink and the purple on there to get those tones. So whether you're thinking of an autumnal theme, a spring theme, a summer theme, getting the different colors of sculpting foam and applying these oil pastels is going to give you exactly what you want. So there we are, we'll pop that away for another day. Thanks very much for joining me. I hope you found that informative and enjoyable at the same time. And if you want to see other such videos, then go to sizzix.co.uk or sizzix.com if you're in the US, and all of our wonderful designers have created some fantastic florals and they're ready there waiting for you.